and some of you are here for the first time, right? Right. So welcome. And so what we do in this class, we've been running for about 3-4 weeks now. We do meditation, and so usually the first part of the class we do a more simple type of meditation on the breathing, and then I usually talk about different aspects of meditation. Then we have a break. Then after the break, we do another kind of meditation. So I'm sort of introducing different types of meditation as we go along in the course. And I notice some neighbors seem to have a party going on. This doesn't always happen. But it's actually something I was going to talk about anyway tonight, how to deal with noise. I'm particularly sensitive to noise. It's a problem for me, but I know that I meet people who don't seem to notice it. They're able to just not notice it somehow. But I also know people like myself who are very sensitive to it and find it difficult to meditate. And also, it's usually recommended, like if we want to develop single-pointed concentration, that it's good to meditate in a place that's quiet. It doesn't have a lot of noise, because you're trying to focus your mind, concentrate your mind, and if there's noise, then it gets distracted by the noise. But that's not always possible. Even I have the experience sometimes of going out into the very remote areas in the mountains, and there's still noise there. Even the noise of birds, they can make a lot of noise sometimes, or other kinds of creatures, or airplanes going overhead. So I think it's almost impossible, maybe unless you went into the underground, in a cave in the underground somewhere, then maybe you could get away from noise. But otherwise, it's hard to find a place that has no noise. So if you can't get away from it completely or stop it completely, then you can deal with it with your mind. And in one type of meditation practice, which is sometimes called mindfulness or vipassana or insight, in that type of meditation practice, you don't try to block anything out or stop your thoughts. You just allow whatever happens to happen, and you just pay attention to it. You just notice it, but without getting caught up in it, following it, or reacting to it, saying, I like this, I don't like that, feeling, liking or aversion, attachment or aversion. So if you're doing that kind of practice, then if you hear noise, you would just say noise. You kind of make a mental note, noise or sound or music, or some kind of note, a mental note about what it is that you hear. And then you let it go, and you go back to your object, which is usually the breath, watching the breath. And if your mind gets kind of caught up in the noise, either maybe it's a noise that you like. If it's a kind of music that you like, then your mind might get, I want to listen to that, pay attention to that. So then you would notice that. You'd make a note about that, of liking or, kind of desiring. Or on the other hand, if your mind gets unhappy, angry, like, I wish they would turn that off. This is really disturbing me. So if you have that kind of reaction, aversion, dislike, rejection, then you notice that as well. So you just notice whatever is going on in your mind, whatever sounds you hear, and whatever thoughts you might have in response to or in reaction to that particular sound. And then just keep coming back to the main object, which is usually the breath, but it could be something else. So by doing that, you learn to not be so bothered by things, whether it's noise, which is like external noise, but then there's also internal noise. The internal noise is our own mind, our own thoughts going blah, blah, blah. So that's also kind of noise. It's not noise we hear with our ears, but it's noise that's going on kind of silently inside. And yeah, even if you go into a cave under the ground, you can't stop that one. So that one's always going on. So thoughts, memories, feelings, all kinds of things are coming up inside of our own mind. And we need to deal with them in the same way. Just notice that they are there. Try not to react to them with either liking, being kind of attracted to and wanting to get involved in it, nor with disliking and saying, oh, I don't like this. I wish this would stop. I wish this would go away. So these are the two things that usually happen in our mind. We either like something, we get all excited about it, or we dislike something and we get very kind of upset about it. So just pay attention if that's happening in your mind, and try not to get caught up in it. Try to just notice this stuff happening and then let it go and come back to the breath. So that's easy to say, but not so easy to do. But slowly, if you keep working at it, you can learn to do this. And it's very helpful, because then no matter what happens, whether it's noise, whether it's memories from the past, whether it's, whatever's going on, you learn to just notice that it's there, make a kind of mental note about it. Oh, look at that. That's what's happening. And then let it go, come back to the breath. Because one thing is, all of these experiences are transitory, meaning they're not permanent. They're not there all the time. They come and they go. So Buddhism has this analogy of our thoughts and other experiences being like clouds in the sky. So just like clouds appear in the sky and then they move through the sky and then they go out, they pass. Although I think they've been there for about 10 days now. But not the same clouds. It's different clouds all the time, but yeah, there's been clouds. But anyway, they're not permanent. Clouds are not permanent. Eventually they go away. So it's the same with our mind. Whatever comes up in our mind is not a permanent thing. It's not there all the time. It just comes and it goes. And then the next one comes and goes. And the next one comes and goes. So you start to see that after a while. You see all these things passing through your mind. And you can gradually learn to just notice them and then let it go. Come back to the breath. So let's try that during this session. So first, make yourselves comfortable. Have your legs crossed in whatever way is most comfortable for you, that you can sit and not have to move too much. It's better not to move too much, because when we move, then it does kind of disturb the mind. So it's good to find a position where you can sit still without moving too much. You can move if you have to, but it's better not to move too much. And it's also good to try to keep your back straight. Sit up straight, because that helps the mind to be more concentrated and clear. And let your shoulders relax. Don't have your shoulders kind of hunched, tight and tense, but let them drop and be relaxed. And in the Tibetan tradition, we usually put our hands in our lap, with the right on top of the left, and the thumbs touching each other above the hands. So you can do that, but if you've learned another way of holding your hands that you like to do, you can do that. And have your mouth closed and relaxed, your jaw relaxed. Ideally, when we meditate, we breathe in and out through the nose, through the nostrils. Unless your nose is blocked, and of course you have to breathe through your mouth. But if your nose is not blocked, it's better to close the mouth and breathe in and out through the nostrils. And it's also a good idea to put the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth behind the upper teeth. Just let it rest there, because by doing that, you won't need to swallow so much during the meditation. And then for the eyes, in some ways it's easier to just close the eyes, because then you don't see anything that might distract you when you're meditating. But there's a bit of a danger if we close our eyes, if we're tired, if, we've been working all day, busy all day, then we might be tired, and closing the eyes can lead to sleepiness. And ideally, we don't want to fall asleep in meditation. We want to be awake. So if you do find yourself feeling sleepy and starting to fall asleep, you can overcome that by opening your eyes a little bit. And in that way, there's some light coming into your eyes, and that can help you to stay awake and alert. Actually, in the Tibetan tradition, they usually say it's good to have your eyes partially open all the time, whether you're sleepy or not, because it just helps the mind to be more clear. But some people find that quite hard to do, especially in the beginning. So you can choose if you want to keep your eyes open a little bit or closed, whatever is more comfortable for you. Now, let's take 3 deep breaths, breathing in slowly and deeply as much as you can. Pause just for a moment and then breathe out slowly. Let the breath go out slowly. So do that 3 times. This kind of breathing actually helps to put us in a more relaxed state of being. And then after those 3 breaths, just go back to a normal rate of breathing. Now, some people find that when they're meditating on the breath and watching the breath, they sort of unintentionally start controlling the breath or trying to control the breath. So ideally, you shouldn't do that. There's no need to do that, because your body knows how to breathe. It's able to breathe on its own. It doesn't need to be controlled or regulated. So I'm just saying this in case you notice this happening, in case you notice your mind trying to control the breath. See if you can not do that. See if you can stop doing that and just allow the body to breathe on its own in a natural way. And sometimes your breath might be a little longer, slower, deeper. Sometimes it might be shorter. And that's fine. I think the body knows how it needs to breathe, whether it needs to breathe longer or slower. So just allow the breath to come in and go out. And with your mind, your awareness, be aware of the breath. Beware. What we're actually paying attention to is sensations that we feel as the breath is coming in and going out. We can't see the breath, and usually we can't hear the breath. So the way we can experience the breath is by our sensations in the body. And there's different ways that you can observe the breath. Some people like to observe it around the nostrils. When I say observe, I don't mean with your eyes seeing it, but with your mind feeling it. So the nostrils are the place where the breath is coming in and going out of the body. So you might be able to feel the sensations around the nostrils or on the upper lip as the breath is coming in and going out. Even if you can't feel those sensations, you can still just focus your mind at that place and just be aware of the breath as it's coming into your body and then going out of your body. Another place where people sometimes observe the breath is the abdomen. So there's a kind of subtle movement in and out of the abdomen when we breathe. So you don't have to force that. Don't force your abdomen to move in and out, but you probably notice that it does move in and out a little bit. So that's another place where people sometimes watch the breath. Or you can just watch your chest. Feel sensations in your chest as the breath is coming in and going out. So it doesn't matter so much where you watch the breath, where you feel it. You can just choose wherever it's most easy, most obvious. And then just try to keep your mind focused at that place and be aware as the breath is coming in and then as the breath is going out. And there's usually a little pause in between the in and the out. So that's the main place where we focus our mind. And mind usually gets bored with this quite quickly and it wants something else. So then thoughts will come up, memories, fantasies, thinking about your life, your problems, your relationships, things you did today, yesterday, things you're going to do tomorrow, this weekend, and so on. So you'll probably find lots of thoughts coming into your mind, and that's completely normal because that's what our mind is doing all day long anyway, thinking. So our thoughts don't stop just because we sit down and try to watch our breath. So they keep coming. So what we need to do when we notice thoughts is to just make a note of them. Just say thought or thinking or memory or fantasy. Or if you hear a sound, as I mentioned before, just say sound. Or if you feel some other sensation in your body, like feeling cold or feeling hungry, you can just say feeling cold, feeling hungry. And then after making that sort of note, mental note, take your mind away from that object and bring it back to the breath. And even if you have to do this again and again and again, it's fine. It's okay. There's no problem with that. That's what we do when we meditate. We just keep coming back to the focal object, the object that we're focusing on, which in this case is the breath. Just keep coming back again and again to the breath. And one thing that can be helpful, you can try it, but it's not obligatory, is to count your breaths. And one way of doing that is to just say to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, one, breathing in, breathing out, two, and continue like that up until five if you're relatively new to meditation, or 10, or even more if you're more experienced. So doing that can help you to keep your mind focused on the breath and keep track of what your mind is actually doing, whether it is on the breath or doing something else. So remember that whatever comes up in your mind, whether it's a thought or a memory or perception, like hearing a sound or feeling a sensation in the body, so all of these things are not permanent. They're not always there in the mind. They simply arise and pass out of the mind, similar to the way clouds appear in the sky and then eventually disappear. So they just pass through the mind. They're transitory, transient. So if you can see those experiences as being like clouds, they just come and go in the mind. So we don't have to take them so seriously. You just notice them, make a mental note of them, let them go, put them aside, and then come back to the breath. So that was about 15 minutes, if anyone's curious to know. Sometimes you can lose track of time when you're meditating, and depending on what's going on in your mind, in your meditation, a short period of time can seem like a really long period of time, or the other way around. A long period can seem to go by really quickly. And usually it's recommended that in the beginning, when you're starting your practice of meditation, it's better not to meditate for too long. Even 10, 15 minutes, or even less, 5 minutes is okay. You don't have to do it for a long period of time. In fact, it's better not to do it for a long period of time, because otherwise, if you kind of push yourself to meditate longer than you're really able to, then your body will start to feel uncomfortable, restless. Your mind will also get kind of restless, and you'll start feeling, oh, I don't like this. I want to get out of here. So then you end up having a kind of bad feeling of aversion to meditation. So they say it's better to have short and sweet and nice sessions rather than long, painful ones. But then as you do more practice, you can increase and do longer and longer sessions according to your ability, according to your schedule. Did anyone have any problems with noise during that session? They sort of quieted down. At least the music. And one other thing that I've found helpful, because like I say, I have difficulty with noise. And it's usually people that are making the noise. Not always, but sometimes. It's often people that are making noise. They're talking or singing, laughing very loud, making hammering, and so on. So one thing I found helpful is if I pretend that the person making the noise is either my brother, my sister, or a friend, then I find it changes the feeling that I have towards the noise. And that's been really helpful, especially like if it's a neighbor and you can't just get rid of them or go somewhere else. They're there all the time. And so, sometimes I find myself getting annoyed at the noise that they're making. And then I found this trick. It worked for me, just to think, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my friend. Because then it's like, okay, it's somebody I care about, somebody I love, somebody, I can put up with them. And so that was something helpful for me. So you could try that, or if you can also try other methods that might work for you. And then I also wanted to talk about something else, and that is that sometimes when people meditate, they can have unusual experiences, and these are sometimes physical. Sometimes you might feel weird physically. Some of the things that people have told me about are, like, for example, you might feel like your body's moving even though it's not, and or just strange sensations in your body that you don't normally have. Sometimes people even sometimes feel like they're lifting up off the ground. They're not really on the ground anymore, on the floor. They're kind of levitating into space. And so sometimes they're more of a physical nature. Sometimes they might be more of a mental or emotional nature. For example, having certain thoughts, certain images, feelings, emotions that are unusual, that we don't usually have. And some of these experiences might be somewhat pleasant or exciting. We may get, wow, this is cool. Kind of excited about it. But sometimes they might be a little bit disturbing or even frightening. It's something we've never experienced before. We might think, what's happening? What's going on here? So, what I've heard from various teachers, various traditions, is the best thing to do if these kind of experiences happen is to treat them in the same way that you would thoughts or sounds or whatever other sort of distractions there may be. In other words, just notice that it's there. Try not to react to it with either liking and excitement and attraction, nor with aversion or fear. Just see it as a phenomena, something that's happening, and it's impermanent. It's not going to last. It's going to change and pass and go away. So if we can do that, then hopefully this experience will pass. It won't stay. It won't keep going on and on and on. But it will pass. So the problem isn't so much that experience, whether it's a physical or a mental one, but how we react to it. It's the same with noise. The problem isn't really the noise itself. It's how we react to it, either getting distracted, like interested and excited about it, or getting unhappy, angry, upset, and so on. So that's the problem. The problem is what goes on inside of us in our mind as a response to that noise. So it's the same with internal experiences, these kind of unusual experiences that happen. But again, it's not so easy to actually put that into practice. It's easy to hear about that and talk about that, but to actually do it is challenging. And in fact, I've been reading some articles on the web and so forth about how, like, mindfulness meditation has become quite popular now in the West. A lot of people are doing it. There's lots of courses. There's apps you can get and practice it on your own without even having a teacher. So more and more people are doing mindfulness meditation. And the usual sort of story, the advertising, is that it's good for all kinds of things. It can help you to be more relaxed and deal with pain, deal with stress, deal with depression. You'll be healthier, you'll be happier, your relationships will go better, all these kind of things. So it's all the good news, good things. But apparently some people don't have good experiences with meditation. They can have some unpleasant experiences. I was reading an article today about, it was written by a woman, a journalist in England, and she attended a mindfulness workshop in a company. And so it was her first time meditating. And she was told, like we did just now, close your eyes and relax and just feel the sensations in your body and watch your breath coming in, going out. But she had this experience of her breath kind of freezing, like she couldn't breathe. Like her lungs just sort of froze up and she couldn't breathe. And then she started getting into panic, feeling of panic. And so it wasn't a pleasant experience for her at all. It was quite an unpleasant, frightening experience. And then she reported that she has heard of and met people who've also had difficult experiences when meditating. So it does happen, and also in Buddhism, it's also mentioned that when we practice meditation, we can, especially if you do it for a longer and longer period of time, you're sort of going deeper and deeper into your mind, into your subconscious or unconscious or whatever. And there's lots of stuff down there. I mean, Buddhism says very clearly that our mind is full of all kinds of stuff from the past, from this life, and not only this life, but also past lives. We've had so many experiences that are kind of buried there that are not at the conscious level. So when you practice meditation, it's quite natural and understandable that you might tap into some old experiences from this life or from previous lives. And those experiences may not be pleasant ones. They might be disturbing or frightening. So, according to Buddhism, this is quite understandable, quite natural. And it's not something to be surprised about or upset about. Instead, it's even said to be a good thing. It's like this is how we clean out our mind. We clean our mind out by, going through that stuff. Just like if you have if you have an attic or a basement and it's full of all this old stuff that you've been accumulating for years and years and years, and it's just building up more and more and more and more. So at some point you go in there and you decide, I've got to clean this up, sort through all this stuff and decide what needs to go and what needs to stay and so on. So it's a bit like that. We have a lot of stuff accumulated in our mind. And it's part of the process of the spiritual path as we're moving to higher states of mind. We have to clean out our old stuff. So they say it's actually a good thing when this old stuff comes up to the surface, and then we can see what's there. Just like when you go into your attic or your basement, you got to look at what's there. You can't just close the door and lock it and hope that all that stuff is going to go away. So having the chance to see what is there in the mind gives us a chance to work on that stuff and see what's useful and what isn't, what we want to keep and what we want to get rid of. So from the Buddhist point of view, it's not a bad thing. It's not something to be worried about or upset about or think that, oh, what's happening and am I going crazy? So it's actually a positive thing. But maybe what happens is sometimes the people teaching meditation or guiding meditation don't always explain that, so the people aren't prepared for that. And then when it happens, they don't know how to deal with it. So it is good to know that there can be difficult, unpleasant, disturbing experiences occurring when we meditate. If this does happen to you, it's not a bad thing. You don't need to worry. You don't need to be scared and wonder what's going on with you. Are you going crazy? Are you going to end up in a mental hospital? If you can just notice this stuff and see it as impermanent, transitory, just like the clouds going through the sky, then hopefully it will go away. It will pass. If it doesn't, or if you're not able to do that, maybe it is something quite disturbing and you're not able to just let it go, then it's best to talk to somebody, talk to a teacher, meditation teacher, or if there's nobody available, talk to a good friend, talk to a therapist. So talk to somebody about it and try to get help. So usually in the Buddhist tradition, it's recommended. It's not just recommended, it's highly recommended. We don't just practice meditation on our own, but have a teacher, at least someone that we can have access to ask for guidance and advice and help, just in case we have such problems. But I don't want to scare you, because it may not be the case that everybody has these kinds of experiences. Some people may not have any problems at all. I don't know what proportion of meditators there are who have difficult experiences. I mean, I've had some very difficult experiences myself, and I've also heard from my friends that sometimes difficult stuff comes up. So it seems like almost inevitable that eventually at some point something challenging can come up. But if you just see this as a chance to get to know your mind, get to know yourself, get to work on something in yourself that needs to be worked on, then you don't have to see it as something to worry about or feel bad about. Have any of you had any kind of difficult or challenging or unpleasant experiences?
Well, I had some physical ones the first time I tried to meditate some years ago.
Yeah.
I had very, very strong pain, and I got very annoyed, like physically and mentally, angry or something.
Yeah.
I don't have that documented, but the first time I tried to meditate, I either had difficulties with staying before I had this problem, but it's not over.
So did you do something for the pain to go away, or
Uh,
just went away by itself?
I don't remember because it's some years ago, so
Mm.
I guess I just have to stop. Maybe I should have followed your advice with meditating on so level.
Mm. I've, I have heard of people sometimes, like for a period of time, they'll have some problem,
Yeah.
like a pain, and then it just goes away. It just
Yeah.
stops without having to do
Actually, I think
anything about
I
it.
heard of that it was a good idea to pay attention to where it was painful and then try to breathe, like imagine that I was breathing into that place and then
Hmm.
it would be easier to handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a method for dealing with pain in a book on mindfulness meditation. It's called Mindfulness in Plain English. And it's written by a Sri Lankan teacher, Gunaratana. And he explains this meditation, or it's not so much a meditation, but a way of dealing with pain within meditation, which is to just focus on the pain itself and then relax. Relax, like he says, usually the muscles around that area are tight and tense. So if we can focus on that place and then relax all the muscles around the pain, that itself can help a lot. And then relax the mind. The mind is because the mind gets tense. The mind says, I don't like this, I don't want this, and trying to push it away. So he says, try to let go of that and just be with the pain. And sometimes people doing that, the pain just vanishes. So a lot of it is just tension, physical tension and or mental tension. So by focusing on it and letting go of the tension, then the pain will pass as well. Hmm. Did you say you had some difficulty as well?
With my legs. They started hurting after a while, but I just replaced them and not replaced them, of course, but I
Change
just
them.
changed the position
Yeah.
and it didn't hurt as much.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's helpful to do something physical like yoga or Tai Chi, Qigong, these physical movements from Asia, because they're often complementary practices to meditation. Like I learned yoga first before I started meditating, so I was able to sit cross-legged without trouble at all. I could sit for hours. Now it's not so easy, but in the early days, the body gets old. But in the early days, no, I didn't have any problem at all. So that, yeah, I think for me, yoga especially really loosens up the body and helps you to be more flexible, and so that's a good complement to meditation. It also could be that you need to find the kind of sitting situation that's right for you. Like some people need higher cushions or several cushions piled up. Um, Other people may need something more flat, more soft, and more hard. So you can try out different kinds of cushions, or even a chair. It's okay to meditate in a chair. So not everybody's body is suited for this kind of posture. So chair is also okay. And they also have these kind of benches that you kneel down and then just sit against the bench. So for some people, that's much more comfortable than sitting cross-legged. So feel free to try different sitting positions, different kinds of cushions, and hopefully you'll find one that works best for you. I also see people sometimes with cushions under their knees, this whole kind of, or whatever works, whatever helps. So try that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Mhm. And I also, well, after the break, I will lead another meditation. This is actually a meditation that can be helpful if we do have some strange experiences, disturbing or unpleasant experiences, whether they're physical or mental. Um, and this is a meditation on the clear nature of the mind. So it's a traditional meditation in Tibetan Buddhism. And one of my teachers, Lama Yeshe, whose picture is here above me, he used to teach this meditation to us. And it's basically just looking at the mind itself and how its nature, according to Buddhism anyway, the nature of the mind is that it's not something physical or material, which means it isn't made of matter. It's not made of molecules and atoms like our body. Our body is made of molecules and atoms and cells and so on and so forth. So it's something physical, something material. But the mind is not. According to Buddhism, this is what the Buddha himself taught, and also the various meditators who have practiced the Buddhist teachings over the centuries. So this is what they experience, that the mind is non-physical, non-material. So it's just this kind of energy, we might say, this energy of knowing and experiencing and being aware, but without any physical properties. So that means we can't see it, we can't touch it. It doesn't have shape, size, color, weight, and so on. It's just this non-physical kind of energy. And it's constantly changing. It's like a stream or a river moving, not moving in a physical way, but moving over time, changing over time. Each moment there's some experience arising, and then it changes into the next moment, and that changes into the next moment. So each experience that we have is something that lasts only a moment, and then it's gone, and then the next one arises, and then it's gone. The next one arises, and then it's gone. So it's like that. There's this continuous flow of different experiences. And each of these experiences, whether it's a thought or an emotion or memory or sensation in our body or hearing a sound, whatever the experience it is, it only lasts a moment and then it's gone. Although we might think, but wait a minute, I sometimes have the same feeling for a really long time, or I'm caught up in a certain way of thinking for a really long time. So it can seem like that. But if you were to examine very, very, very carefully, very closely, what's actually going on, you will probably, most probably, see that it's actually changing all the time. Even though you might be thinking about the same thing for a period of time, but your thoughts are actually different. Changing thoughts. Or you might be feeling some emotion, anger or depression or whatever. But if you really pay careful attention, you'll probably see that it's just there's moments of depression, and then in between something else, and then another moment of depression and something else. So you'll see, I'm sure, if you really, really watch carefully, that it's actually changing all the time. And all of these experiences are just this stuff, this what we call mind, non-physical, non-material. So there's a meditation where we just try to observe our mind and try to get a sense of how our mind is this non-physical, flowing, changing stream of different experiences going on and on and on and on. And so that meditation can be helpful if you have some sort of difficult experience, whether it's thought or feeling or memory or whatever. If you can remember that that is just a part of the mind, it's not permanent, it's momentary, it only lasts a moment, and it's not something physical or material, it's not hard and solid, because then that means it can't harm me, it can't hurt me. There's no need to be worried about it, no need to be afraid of it. It's similar to dreams. You know, when we're asleep, we have dreams, and sometimes we can have very frightening dreams. We can have monsters or, you know, psychotic murderers chasing after us with weapons. Well, it can be really scary. We wake up feeling terrified, and then we realize, oh, that was just a dream. And then we relax, we calm down because we know it wasn't real. It wasn't something that can really harm us. So it's similar even with the things that happen during the day, the things that happen in our mind. They're just in our mind. They're just appearances in our mind, similar, not exactly the same, but similar to the things that appear in our mind when we are dreaming. So if we realize that, then we realize I don't need to be afraid of my mind. I don't need to be afraid of my thoughts and feelings and emotions. They can't hurt me. There's nothing solid there that can give me any harm, do me any damage. And it will pass. All these things will pass. They just come and they go, just like clouds in the sky. Come and go, come and go. They pass. No need to worry about it. So that this meditation will do after the break is something that can be useful if you do have any kind of disturbing experience, whether it's in meditation or out of meditation. It's useful for all kinds of situations. So let's take a break now, and then it's about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We'll come back and do some more. Imagine that if there's any tension in your body, any tightness, tension, pain, discomfort, imagine that it kind of melts like a piece of ice sitting out in the hot sun. It just melts and then it goes away, flows away, flows out of you, out of your body. Just imagine it going down into the earth beneath us and disappearing there. Just try to imagine that any tension in your body or in your mind just drains out of you and sinks into the earth and disappears there. So just try to let your body be as relaxed as possible, light like a cloud. And let your breath flow in and out in a natural way. Just let your mind or your awareness rest on the breath or ride on the breath. Just being aware of the breath as it's coming in and going out. And it's helpful to think of the breath as a friend because it keeps us alive. If we didn't have the breath, if we were not able to breathe, we wouldn't be able to go on living. We would die. So the fact that we're able to breathe in and out again and again, one after another, is something wonderful, something fantastic, something miraculous. Because it means we have life. We can go on living and do all the things we like to do. It's good to have a positive feeling about the breath. See it as a friend. And we can also see it as something that can help us to calm down when our mind gets too too crazy. So many thoughts, so busy, many thoughts, worries, plans. So letting our mind just rest on the breath, watching the breath, feeling the breath coming in and going out, naturally brings about a more calm state of mind and a more calm state of the body. So that's another way that a breath is like a friend, a helper, something that helps us. And Thich Nhat Hanh says it's like coming home when we pay attention to the breath and keep coming back to the breath. It's like coming home because it means our mind is coming back to our body right here, right now, the present. So that's something very comforting, just like going home is very comfortable. Coming back to our body, coming back to our breath, coming back to this present moment is something very nice and comforting. So just let your breath come in and go out, and just for a little while, pay attention to your breathing. Try to get into a more calm, peaceful state of body and mind. So as we are sitting here, trying to sit still, trying to be calm and peaceful, relaxed, trying to just be aware of our breath coming in and going out. Let's use part of our mind, part of our awareness to just explore this question of the mind itself. What is mind? Is it something in our body, like a part of our body? Does it have physical properties, like a certain shape, color, size, weight? What is it made of? It's probably hard to answer these questions. And what the Buddha and Buddhism says is that mind is not a physical thing. It's not a part of our body. It's not made of cells, molecules, atoms, and so on. It doesn't have shape or color or size or weight. So we can think of it as a kind of energy, a non-physical kind of energy that knows, that feels, that experiences, that is aware of things. So it's that part of us that meditates. When we meditate, it's the mind that's meditating. And when we have thoughts, that's our mind, having thoughts, thinking. When we feel sensations in our body, that's our mind, having those experiences. When we hear sounds, like the people walking around upstairs, talking, sound of the clock. So that's our mind, hearing those sounds. When we have feelings, emotions, we're happy or unhappy, we feel loving or angry, hurt, sad, depressed. So those experiences are also mind. So mind is always there, having some kind of experience, something happening Even when we're asleep, there's always something happening in the mind, like dreams or just darkness. So it's there all the time, 24 hours a day, every minute, every second, experiencing something. Very busy, very complex. But Buddhism says the mind is not something physical. It's just like clear, like empty space in a way. And that it can't be seen, it can't be touched. And it's always changing. Every moment, every second, different experiences coming and going, coming and going. Nothing is permanent in our mind. So just try to get a sense of what the mind is, what its nature is. It's non-physical, non-material, not solid, not permanent. Just this flow of experiences coming, going, coming, going, always changing. And there's no need to be afraid of the mind or afraid of any of the thoughts or experiences in the mind, because they cannot harm us. They don't have arms or legs or weapons that they can hurt us with. They're just like the things that appear in our dreams at night. They just appear, but they're not real, they're not solid, they can't harm us. So think of some experience you may have had, like a feeling of being hurt or being afraid, being sad, or being angry, some kind of painful, difficult, unpleasant experience. Maybe at the time when you had that experience, you felt very disturbed, very frightened. Maybe you thought you were going crazy. Maybe you thought this feeling would just go on forever and ever, it would never change. Now try to see that that experience is not something solid. It's just part of the mind. It's just an experience in the mind. Not solid, not physical, and not permanent. More like a cloud that comes and goes in the sky. So does it help to think in that way? To see your experiences as non-solid and non-harmful, non-threatening? Does it help you to be more relaxed and not so afraid of what goes on in your mind? So if it is helpful, then you could keep it in mind, keep this idea in mind, and use it the next time you find yourself having some difficult or painful or unpleasant experience. You can remind yourself, hey, I don't need to be afraid of this. It's not permanent. It's not going to last. It's just the mind, not solid, not permanent. It'll pass. So let's conclude by making a dedication of the positive potential, good energy we've created here tonight. So when we do meditation or learn about meditation or anything to do with a spiritual path, we definitely create some good energy. And that we can share that good energy with others, other people, other beings, the whole world. So let's do that mentally, wishing that the positive energy we've created here tonight will spread from here and go to all the people, all the beings everywhere in the world, and help them to find more peace and happiness, have less suffering and confusion, help them all understand their real nature, their real potential, and get closer to enlightenment. Okay, thank you.